Hello, 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 hello. It's Michelle. I'm going to give you guys a little time to get in today. And I guess y'all can see my gray is popping today. Yes. And I'm going to be talking to y'all about not having an old mind. Oh, yes, indeed. Not having an old mind. That's my podcast today. My podcast title is called Old Minds Need Not Apply. I think it's brilliant. It might sound corny, but I think it's brilliant. So anyway, let me give y'all a few minutes to get in here. I was told that I'd be moving too fast. So we'll try to, get this going in a minute. So anyway, I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. I completely rested. Yes, I did. I rested. And this is a marvelous Monday. Marvelous Monday. I'm trying to get my notes up. I should have had my notes ready, y'all. Don't judge me. Don't you judge me. But anyway, okay. So I am on my research. I'm on the hunt. I am fascinated with strategy and things like that right now. And so I've been reading a lot of strategy books and plans and histories and stuff. And it's really interesting. And I'm just going to say this. The first thing is I realized that women, so it was not just gender. Women as well as men throughout the ages have been strategic geniuses, and that by learning more about strategy, we do all of ourselves a favor because it actually helps us to interact better with each other. But anyway, okay, so what I wanted to say about, I'm gonna put this away because I'm not finding my notes that fast. But before I forget, you guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and please share, because we do these live, trying to do them as much as we can. I was going to be on here a little early, but I was having technical difficulties until I discovered the user error because I was hot. Yeah, I was hotter than fish grease. I was like, this is a new computer. What is going on? And I'm glad that I didn't send that hot little message off to the powers that be. I figured it out. Okay, so anyway, talking about an old mind. So let me get into what I wanted to talk about today. So when I talk about not having an old mind, what I'm talking about is being inflexible. Recently, I have had a great time talking with different people about a myriad of things. And I don't know what it is, but people tend to ask me my take on something. And I'm like, why? It doesn't matter. But I guess I will be doing a hot take today. All right. So recently, I have been getting asked a lot about the phenomenon that's happening here in the United States for the fried chicken sandwich and all of that. And I hope I don't shoot myself in the foot by even trying to say anything about this. But I'm going to just venture to say this, that endeavoring to have a mind that is ever ready to grow, I believe that we should always come with a beginner's mind. And a beginner's mind is a mind that is dying daily to self, meaning that the person you were yesterday does not matter. Each day you get a brand new mercy when you take in that breath and you're fully awake and you're able to move about. Being able to have that as a sign that this is a brand new day for you, I believe that you should shun what was yesterday and live for today. Now, yes, of course, you're going to have some experiences and some knowledges, but don't rest on it. And like I said before, I've been studying a lot of strategy, and at this particular time in my journey, and I have the prerogative to change my mind after this, so don't try to hold me to this. What I'm going to say is that when we look at something, we need to not only try to see the opposite side, we need to see various angles of a situation. And so I don't know that I have a hot take on that as much as I have observations about different sides, the pros and cons for some. And so that's what I've actually just been telling people. I have been observing things, and from a strategic standpoint, this is what I feel can be said. Okay, so whether you're on the side of don't get the chicken sandwich, or you're on the side of get the chicken sandwich, or you're on the side of do not act a fool of the chicken sandwich, or you're on the side of do whatever you can to get this chicken sandwich, it doesn't matter. And the reason why it doesn't matter is because to each person, their perception of reality is truth. And when we try to say anything that is counter to what they want, it don't matter. And so a lot of people that I've said this to, they're like, that's not what I wanted you to say, because my answer is do as thou wilt, as long as you are not wilt into somebody in harm. Do as you please, because it causes you to take responsibility for your actions, for your belief systems, for your thoughts, and for your behaviors of whatever it is you're doing. And I always have said, take a litmus test. Would you like to be 5 years from now and shudder when you think about how you acted now, whether it was how you acted over the chicken sandwich or how you acted in what you had to say about those people getting chicken sandwiches? And I don't even want to say those people. I'm just saying people. That was a bad choice of words for me. And y'all, this is live. And so I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this out in the open. And I want to say this for me, because then someone was like, well, I want to know what you think about it. And I would say that for me, I'm not interested. And the reason why I'm not interested in getting a quote unquote chicken sandwich right now is, I think, probably because a little bit of my curious, rebellious nature. I have a hard time just doing something simply because someone else said that I need to do it. I mean, even when I go to other places that have these chicken sandwiches, I don't normally order them from there. So why would I go here when I normally order something else anyway from this particular restaurant and just get the chicken sandwich because someone said it was great? I'm like, okay, fine. And the sad part is now I'm avoiding the restaurant because, yes, in our area, it is experiencing the same thing that everyone else is. And you can go back and you can look at the history, you can look at the coding, you can look at any kind of quote unquote rituals, anything that is causing this behavior. And there have been so many people that I think have done a great job in doing all of that. And so I don't call it wussing out. I'm just gonna call it do as thou wilt, as long as you don't hurt anybody else. It's your right, it's your prerogative. But what I will say is use a litmus test to where you want to be, and always be thinking about it if you can while you're doing an action. Ask yourself, who is driving me to do this? Am I truly sovereign? Am I the one making me want to come here? Or am I the one making me want to come here because of any kind of fears? Meaning, the fear of missing out, the fear of things running out, the fear of lack. A lot of that stuff can be something that causes us to behave irrationally. And like I said, you have to be the person that is deciding if that's a good look for you. Like I said, what are you going to be doing in 5 years when you look back on this and you say, I cannot believe I sat in a line for X amount of time for something that I would not have ordered unless everybody else wanted it. And that brings me to this thing that I wanted to talk about today of don't have an old mind. Now, when I talk about an old mind, I am talking not necessarily about your age. I'm not talking about your gender, any of that stuff. I am talking about the state of your mental abilities when it comes to flexibility, agility, adaptability, and mental presence. Mental presence is something that I hope we know about it, but I love the way mental presence is presented when you're looking at strategy from a military standpoint. And that mental presence, the way they talk about building it, they talk about mental presence as the aftermath of what happens when someone has come face to face with their fears, whether it be death, pain, suffering, oppression, anything that's harrowing, full of horror. It's how present are you in the midst and the aftermath of that? And a lot of the strategies that I'm studying right now are ancient. So they don't have the influence of PTSD that we know right now. I wish I could find something. And I'm going to continue to look for some things about presence of mind once you have been through trauma, because I really would kind of be interested in that. But the takeaways that I have gotten at this particular time, because I'm still studying, y'all, it's so much stuff out there. Oh my gosh, it's so much. But the thing that I have gotten is that presence of mind becomes this ability to act in the immediacy with clarity and intelligence about what to do when all hell breaks loose. You know, it is that ability to not freeze, because we all have a flee or a fight or flight is what I'm saying, a fight or flight response. And a lot of people don't know what their natural response is because they've never been in that particular situation where they had to find out. And I remember having a conversation with, and I'll just go on and say his name. He's always been great to me. Russell Bronson. He is a prolific internet marketer and business person. He is one of the founders of ClickFunnels, and I appreciate him. I met him before ClickFunnels, and it was just this one time, but I was able to get on the phone with him. And I can't remember even what the situation was, but I was like having a bad time of it. And I was going through, and I had been going through for quite a while. And he was giving me a pep talk, and he was like, Michelle, what happens if your worst fear comes to pass? And he was like, go there. He's like, go there in your mind before you go there in reality. And he was like, check it out. See if it really is as bad. And I was like, it's going to be bad. And he was like, and so what? You know, and he didn't, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the gist of our conversation was go and make fear your friend. Once you get to that point where you have gone through what fear looks like, what your worst situation is, you've done it. And thus go on and do the thing. So yeah, I took his advice and it worked out. It worked out. The boogeyman that I had made crumbled in the face of action. And if I had had a mind that is grown, a mind that is old, I would have never reached out to him first and foremost. I would have tried to continue to do what I had always done. And that's the way the strategies that I've been studying have been presenting it. They're like, if you find yourself always trying to attack things the way you always have, you are already defeated. The flexible mind, the agile mind is the one that takes each new circumstance as a brand new thing to deal with. It does not try to make it seem like you've got it all figured out. It doesn't do that kind of stuff. But your mind wants and needs to do is to be able to give value to each situation you come under. Never underestimate it. Treat it with the respect that it has. Understanding that each new victory should be as quickly forgotten as each new failure. You should not rest on any kind of laurels. Each day, you should die daily to self and go out there and try it again with a beginner's mind. And thinking of this, in the podcast, I talked about a book called Finite and Infinite Games by James Carsey. And that book, it's a little involved. It's not very long, but you can tell a philosopher wrote it. But the gist of it is this: we are at any given time playing one of two or even both games, and he divides the world in the world in which we know it as two types of games: finite and infinite. And a finite game is the one that we're most familiar with. The finite game has an end goal. Somebody wins. Hopefully, everybody wins. It is where all of the different scenarios that we're familiar with regards to zero sum game, all positive sum game, net sum game, all of those fall under the finite games because there is a set rule or rules. There is a set way to know who won, who lost. And this is the thing: each side or each competitor must agree to be in that game. If they don't, they're not in the game. Okay. So he makes that very specific. Whether it is a sporting event or a race to space or whatever it is, any kind of competitiveness, as long as the people are agreeing to it, it is something that they are engaged in a game. Somebody wants to win. All right. So on the other side of that is what he would call the infinite game. And the infinite game, the best way to describe it is a game that its sole purpose is to prolong its ability, prolong the player's ability to be in it. So the biggest infinite game that we have is life. We want, hopefully, most of us, hopefully, want to have our life as long as possible. We want to prolong it. We want to keep it at a level that is healthy and good. We don't want to get to a goal of winning, meaning we expire or die. And so that's an example of a finite game. Another finite game, let me just give you an example how an infinite game can become a finite game. A finite, split that, y'all. A finite game can become an infinite game. And that is where you have someone who's trying to get married, so they're interested in being married. Sorry, I have hair in my face. So they're trying to get married. That goal is to get to that altar or get to that I do with the legal paperwork. Okay. So that's the goal. Okay, so that's the goal. So once that has been met, then move over into the infinite. And the infinite is to keep the state of marital bliss going as long as possible, maintaining the vibrancy, the love, the dedication, the loyalty, the provision, all of that as a unit for as long as possible. And so that's how you can have those. Now, why am I talking about these games? The reason why I'm talking about these games is because a lot of times we don't realize how subtle it is that we can get stuck in how we play our games and how we think the game should be played. And that's where the trouble comes in, because one of the things that we can know is that all we really have is change. And thus, but still nothing stays the same, but nothing's new under the sun. It's the weirdest thing. And so when you have this old mind, it's where you think you have mastered something and you think that this is how it should be done. And for anybody to do it otherwise, you think, oh, they've got it wrong, or that's not going to work. And you're not open to playing the game differently or changing the type of game. And therefore, you become inflexible, rigid, staunch, conservative, constricted. And it takes more effort to move you out of a way of thinking. Have you ever dealt with somebody who they're just stuck in their ways and they proudly tell you, this is just the way I am? I'll be the first to say I dated someone like that. And I was like, when they kept saying that, I was like, I am done. It's done with you. The reason why I was saying that, it was because I'm like, dude, seriously? This is just the way you are? And we were young. I was like, if this is the way you are, you just, because I know that I want to keep growing. I want to keep being the person I want to be, which is new. I don't want to be the same person I was last year. If I am, there's something wrong. If I am, I'm thinking because I might as well be dead. I might as well be the walking dead, And so I was looking at how it was good to remember that you don't want to have an old mind. You want to be flexible. Now, on the podcast, I've talked about this adaptability quotient. And what the adaptability quotient is it looks at how fast, how agile, how flexible, how complete and successful a person is in adjusting to a changing environment, terrain, or requirement. And this is, they're saying, it's going to become the replacement for the IQ test, that there will be more people looking at an AQ test for knowing who to hire, who to grant monies to, or whatever it is. And they say it is because we need the people who are able to change on a dime and forget all the stuff that was in place before. Forget the rules of what they were used to. And without a lot of a lot of grumbling, change over to the new rules, the new normal, the new way of doing things. And isn't that funny that we're always taught to master something, to become good at something. And now it seems like that's out the window. And now they want us to be able to change on a dime, forget what you know. And I was like, you know what? When it comes down to it, the only thing we really can be masterful in, mastery of change. I'm going to be talking about that in a podcast of how, to become a master of change. And it's a razor's blade edge that we walk on, because on the one hand, you still have to have some knowledge and some experience under your belt. Over the weekend, I did a podcast where I talked about some of the features of success, and that success is exponential. It's not linear. It is where success builds upon a whole bunch of failure, a whole bunch of experience, a whole bunch of resources, until you get to this point. So success looks like this. It keeps going like this, like this, like this. And if you continue to go, then it'll go like that, And so success is exponential. You don't know when it's going to hit, but if you stick with it and you be okay with failure, if you be okay with uncomfortableness, and you be okay with building these networks and building these skills and strengths, it will come. And with all of that, you still got to be flexible to be willing to push all that to the side and go with something new. I know, I'm like, man, just when you think you cracked the code, something else happens. And that brings me to the last thing I want to say in our little chat today. And that is that one of the big things about being able to have a flexible, agile, and adaptable mind is to have a self-awareness. And boy, I remember when I was in school. So let me tell y'all this little story. So I was in school, in grad school, and I was having to grapple with exercise in self-awareness. And there always comes this time in school, in the discipline that I'm in psychology, where we have to grapple with the difference between self-consciousness and self-awareness. And how I was taught and how I learned it is that they are different, and depending on the situation, they can be subsets of each other. Most people will say, no, it's always self-consciousness and then self-awareness. But I'm going to say it can be subsets depending on what type of state you're in or whatever. And why is this important? I'm going to tell you. This is important because, going back to like my chicken example, the more a person is self-aware, the more a person is able to be objective enough to step back from something and change. The more rigid you are, the less self-aware you tend to be. And the reason why is because you are locked into a grouping, a tribalism, a thinking of a group. And it takes a lot of self-awareness to step aside and stand by yourself and look objectively at what you're doing, what the world is doing, and everything. And it takes that beginner's mind to come as if you know nothing. One of the greats, Greco-Roman, Socrates. Socrates worked everybody's nerve because he always lived in that beginner's mind. He was known to be very wise. Even the Oracle of Delphi said that he was the wisest man alive at that time. And it came down to when he was told that, he was like, the only way I can be the wisest man of the place is that I understand I know nothing. And so when he would interact with anybody, he would ask, it became known as the Socratic Method, but he would ask all of these different questions. It's like that little irritating kid. You tell him something, but why? But why? And he just keeps asking you and keeps qualifying it down to where you're going to definitely know why by the time you get through answering him. And that was Socrates. And Socrates was able to not care what everybody said because he was very self-aware. I could go on and on about self-awareness and how you need to look at self-awareness from different perspectives and all that, but that's not what this is about. What I mainly want to get you to take away today is I want you to look and see. I want to help you to identify if you have any rigidity. Are there just sacred cows that you just believe them because they're tradition or ritual, or somebody else believes them, or your region believes them? In the podcast, I talk a little bit about crowd sensing and crowd mapping. And it's a technology where they collect all this data, they mine this data off of the internet, especially social media sites. And they look at how people, individual and groups, behave towards events, critical situations, and all this stuff. And based on how the people react, they map it. And they're able to tell you by region how certain people behave to certain news. And with the group or the crowd sensing, they're able to know, okay, if we say, like say for instance, if we say and we report that an earthquake has hit, they'll behave this way here, this way here, this way here. Yeah, and they have gotten it down to science. What the flexible beginner's mind does is it does that, but it does it better, because the beginner's mind is not only able to pick up the zeitgeist, the spirit of the air, but the beginner's mind, because you know nothing, you're flexible, you're always growing, always changing, and you're picking up skills along the way, but you find that you become more emotionally astute. So your social empathy quotient is way up. You become really agile because you start to understand that what you do is only based on that situation and not based on what you did the other day. You also get to a level where you get this finesse about you, and you start to get more aware of where you are in this situation as well as where other people are. And therefore, you don't take yourself too seriously. You can go with the flow. You are not grasping on to concepts and laurels of yesterday, so that you can always move with the time. And I'm just going to say this before I let you go. If you suspect after, our little conversation, our little chat today, that you've got a pretty, I don't want to call you old, I don't want to call you brittle, but if you find that you've been in a rut and you've been believing your own hype and only believing that things are supposed to be done the way they have always been done, then I'm going to suggest that just for maybe a day or two, you forget all of that and you approach your day differently. How do you do that? Well, some applicable stuff would be, instead of just looking at your surroundings and saying, oh, I know my surroundings, look and truly look at stuff around you. See the wonder with a different eye of what color is that house I pass by every day? Or how many stoplights are there? Just the little small things of opening your observation when you get to work or when you interact with your friends. Instead of behaving the same way you always have, behave as if you're a stranger getting to know them again, but with a sense of wonder to try to see them in a new, fresh light. Doing little things like this is going to quickly make you aware of where your sacred cows are, where the things are that you might be holding on to that you don't need to hold on to anymore. And I'm going to even tell you this. One of the things that I have found as a byproduct of forcing myself to do this is that I become interesting again. Yes. And I'm always excited about that because, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You become fresh in other people's eyes again. One of the things that I love when I am remembering to do this is I look for the magnificence in someone. I don't try to look at them just like, oh, that's my friend or that's my significant other. I don't look for that kind of stuff. I look to say, what is that treasure that is lurking, hiding from me that I've been overlooking? And I like to go treasure hunting. It makes me have to behave differently. It makes me not take anything for granted. And it makes me understand that truly, that we are always made for change. One time I was looking up something for a book, and I was looking for, instead of the muse, I wanted to know what was the male version of a muse, M-U-S-E, just in case my accent sounds crazy. So I was looking for the male counterpart of a muse. And guess what it is? The male version, or the gender version of this, don't at me, y'all, I'm just telling you what I found, is called an agent of fortune. Yes, an agent of fortune. And what this male muse does is he helps you to find newness in your journey. He doesn't cause mischief or any of that kind of stuff. It's just that he's kind of serendipitous, where he helps you to discover desirable change in your life that brings you this new awareness. And so I dare you. This is the thing I'm going to leave you guys with. I dare you to appeal to the agent of fortune to change your journey, to mix it up and help you to become an agent of change, an agent of fortune, and find ways to break out of the shell and break out of the confines that we all start to put ourselves in. I know it's hard to change. I know it's painful. And I know that it can be disruptive, not only for you, but for others. But one thing I will guarantee you is that when you start to change, others change around you. If you don't like what you've been getting out of life, change. If you don't like how people either see you or even don't see you, take the opportunity to begin with a beginner's mind, seeing everything new. And I'm going to tell you, signs and wonders, baby, signs and wonders to behold. All right, so guess I'm gonna get on off of here. Thank you guys, and thank you so much for posting. Somebody is actually out there listening to me in real time. I appreciate it, you guys. I'm gonna drop the link for the podcast. And today, I forgot to mention this. Today is 6-month anniversary of the podcast. I've actually been doing a daily podcast every day for the last 183 days and counting. And so I am going to drop that in there. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know you're out there. I've just gotten up the nerve to get online to do these with you because I'm like, and so I'm actually practicing what I'm preaching. This, for me, is an act of having a beginner's mind, of getting here and doing this with you every day and understanding that it's new every day. So thank you so much. You are awesome too. You are awesome too. Thank you so much. And guess what, you guys? If as long as I can, I'll be here tomorrow. I'm gonna see y'all later. Bye. Yes, indeed. So I gotta remember to put that stuff in the show notes. Bye, y'all.